Hello, everyone. Welcome. Hi, Bjarke. Hi, Natalie. Thank you for joining me today. So I can see already viewers joining us. Hello, everyone. I'm Olta, Orientation and Admission Specialist at Talent Garden Innovation School. So for us that don't know what Talent Garden is, just let me shortly introduce you guys. So Talent Garden is a community of tech enthusiasts. So basically we started in 2011 in Italy as a co-working space. And now we have 18 campuses all over Europe. In 2015, we added this very important pillar of our company called the Innovation School. We offer courses always related to digital and tech world, such as marketing, design, data, coding, etc. Now, Bjarke, I invited you here today as a guest speaker to talk about the portfolio because I take care of two UX design courses, like the admission process. Very often when I talk to candidates, it could be that they are interested in UX design as some skills for their actual career. It could be that they are interested in UX design as a new career. No matter what the goal is, the point is portfolio comes on the table very often. That's why I invited you here today, so you can share a little bit your experience with us. And Natalie, of course, as the learning manager of our UX design courses, can also share a few insights about the offerings that we have in those courses. So Bjarke, once you're ready, of course, you can start with the presentation. And yeah.
Thank you so much, Olta. Have been looking forward so much to being here, and really looking forward to tell you all about the portfolios. I have prepared some slides. I don't know if you can maybe activate them, Olta.
Yeah, I will activate them. Tell us a little bit about yourself first and how your UX design path started, and then we can share your really nice presentation.
Of course. As I said, I'm Bjarke, and I'm coming to you live here from Copenhagen, where I work in a fintech as the head of UX and design. And I'm here today not because I created the best possible portfolio that everyone is sharing online, but because I've looked through hundreds of portfolios when hiring people as a UX manager throughout the past 6 to 7 years, I think it is, since the first time. And I sort of compiled all these opinions and tips for how to create a portfolio that actually gets you results, not just something that looks nice online. So I prepared 5 for them to share today. Also 5 bonus tips, and I could probably, find 5 more or 10 more or 50 more, but we'll go through the best today, and then we'll see if you have any questions and take it from there.
Yeah, definitely. So guys, if you have questions, of course, you can use the comments section and we will come back to you once the presentation is done. Meanwhile, me and Natalie will go backstage, and Bjarke, the scene is all yours. I will share here on the stream also your presentation, and you can start.
Thank you so much. All right, everyone, and welcome to this very sort of brief presentation. At least it's not 2 hours, luckily for everyone, but I chose to call it 5 tips for creating a UX portfolio. But the real title is probably 5 tips for creating a UX portfolio that will get you results. So something that is not just a classic portfolio that you fill out a template and put up somewhere, but something that will actually help you achieve whatever you need to do with your portfolio. All right, very quickly, I already introduced myself, but just to sum it up again, I have a lot of experience both in terms of managing UX teams, service design teams, product teams, and similar. Both in like, I'm in a small startup now, but I also been the chief service designer in a huge Scandinavian bank. So I've been sort of all around the place and hired a lot of different people in the design space. So everything from researchers to graphic designers and everything in between. So my experience and my sort of the reason why you should listen to me today is not because my portfolio skills are extremely great. I wouldn't actually say that, especially since I live in a country where everyone knows each other. So portfolios are less important here, at least like compared to other countries. But because I've seen all these portfolios, and I know what to look for, and I know what recruiters are looking for, and what employers, customers, if you're sort of working in an agency setting, what they are looking for. So that's what I'm going to share with you today. Just very briefly, I'm going to talk about what is a UX portfolio, because I guess some of you are really new to this. Maybe you joined to hear more about the courses in user experience from Talent Garden, and are sort of looking into what is a user experience. And some of you might be more experienced or experts in the area, but I've created something for everyone in this presentation. And very, very briefly, I just pulled this description in from a website called interactiondesign.org. You might have heard of it. It's a great resource for articles about everything design related. And they say that a UX portfolio are used by designers to showcase their skills and knowledge to get hired. So that's their approach, to get hired. And a portfolio contain case studies of past projects that demonstrate what they have done and how they work. So, if we just go with this description, it's basically an involved resume. If you are working as a business developer, you might have a resume that in text describes everything you've done. But as a UX designer, it's a bit more important to show more than just a description of the places you worked and a brief overview of what you've done there. We really focused on actual projects, and a portfolio is this place where you can, like a photographer, showcase what have you actually done. What is something you have created in this world, and why should people hire you compared to someone else. So that was very briefly what a portfolio is. I think we just get going with the tips. And tip one I chose to bring to you today is pick a format that you are comfortable with. And I think this is a really important lesson for everyone. And when I talk about a format, I'm talking about, should your portfolio be on a website? Should it be a PDF? Should it be a PDF uploaded to a website? There's all these ways you can create a portfolio and share it with the world. And from experience, I once was, I was not even supposed to apply for a job, but I was contacted by this very large international company located in Switzerland. Then I haven't said too much, and they were really interested in bringing me in, but they needed a portfolio, and I was like, oh, okay, I haven't updated my portfolio in 3 years because I've been working on this one project. But I should update it. But now I also want to do it in this Webflow tool that I heard about. This would be super cool. And then, flash forward 5 days later, I just spent all my free time trying to set something up on this new tool, and the portfolio was not better. And I learned a lot about this new tool, which was great. But it was really not time spent improving my portfolio so I could get hired for this job. I brought this slide just to show you sort of the pros and cons for two very popular ways of hosting or sharing your portfolio. One being a website, and when I say website, I mean sort of like your own website, not just there are these sort of in-betweeners, Behance, Dribble, where you can upload small snippets of your work, or you can upload PDFs and display it like a website. So it's not that black and white. But mostly, I think when people apply for jobs in the companies I worked in, we see that they are sending a link to their own website, or they are sending in a PDF. And I think the best choice you can do here is to, if you need something quickly, go with what you're comfortable with. And if you have all the time in the world, or you are looking for a job in like a month and have the time, then go explore what tool you are looking for, or if you don't have a website, you can try to create that. But it's really not that important to when you're sharing something for a job. Maybe in some places they're leaning a bit more towards one of the other types. especially depending on what kind of designer you are. If you are more into front end, a website might be a lot better than a PDF. But it's really not that important as long as you are able to actually share your portfolio. And that's I'm not gonna read through everything. You'll be able to get a copy of the slides afterwards if you would like to read through it. But just like to highlight some of the pros and cons. Well, a website is always the coolest thing to look at, but it also takes a lot longer to set up, because you need to also do a little bit of development unless you are just doing a template one-to-one. And the server might go down. You might have issues if a web technology is updating and your template is not updating, and then everything is just like wrong in your layout of the site, and it looks like you are a bad designer. So there are all these things that just makes this format more expensive, better, but more expensive. On the contrary, in the PDF part, I would say it can also quickly be a huge PDF on like 50 megabytes that you can't send in an email or upload to a really old school job application site if you are applying to a corporate or somewhere that requires that. So a website might be better here, but pros and cons. And one thing I forgot to write down is that a really great thing about the website is that if you are constantly looking for customers or new jobs, or just want to get contacted if someone interesting notice you, a website also makes sure that you show up on Google, show up in search engines, and people can just stumble across your work. And that won't happen in a PDF. But if you are like me and have worked a lot in very regulated sectors with a high confidentiality and a lot of projects you can't really share publicly, then you can't put it up on a website anyway unless you have a password or something. So it really depends on what fits your context. But always choose something, if you're in a hurry, that you already know. The rest is not that important for the employer. All right. As I have this list of recommended tools, but there are more out there. But I just mentioned Webflow earlier, which is sort of this visual way of coding websites, so a bit more advanced. But you also have a site like Adobe Portfolio. If you're already paying for the Adobe package, you have a free portfolio website you can do there. Squarespace, Uxfolio, Carbon-Made, all these sort of template sites that you just sort of write down all your case work, your case descriptions, you find the images, and then you just pull up the package and upload it online. And sometimes it works, sometimes it's a bit like coding your own website, so it takes a lot of time, but really cool tools. And actually for PDF, use whatever is you're comfortable with. If you are doing a lot of design in Sketch and Figma, I mean, you might as well just set it up there. I've used Keynote actually. I think also the image I've chosen is from a Keynote template from Nielsen Norman Group. Yeah, whatever you're comfortable with, but you can't really see when you export it to a PDF what program you've been using. So yeah, whatever fits you the best. As a bonus tip, if you decide to do something fancy, especially like a website, your user experience will also be judged by the people looking through your portfolio, of course. So be sure, if you are maybe using a template or something like that, you also to test that is not just a pretty template, but the user experience is also functioning, just to sort of tell everyone that you also have a sort of a good eye for choosing the right way to display your own work. Also, maybe not leave all the images up there, all the text in the world. Just put up what helps you tell a good story and helps you get a good overview of the project. So yeah, bonus tip. I can see like in the bottom of the corner a few questions popping in from here, but I think I'll just do them in the end if that's okay with you guys. But else we might make a stop in the middle if that's a lot.
Yeah, Bjarke, we will do the questions at the end. I just want to gather them and then we can start the Q&A at the end. No worries.
Perfect, Alta. Thank you. All right, tip 2. Well, as I mentioned earlier, it's also important that you shape your portfolio to fit your specialty. And when I talk about specialty, it might be also the design title that you choose to identify as. And that is sort of it's a subject that's is very widely discussed on the internet, on LinkedIn, on at conferences. What is a UX designer? What is a UI designer? What is a product designer? What is a service designer? And how do they overlap? And that's whole thing. You don't want to drag that into your portfolio discussion anyway. But at least depending on what you do, you might lean towards some part of UX or the other part or something in the middle. So sit down and sort of consider what is actually the space you're working in, or maybe if you're a generalist, just what is the area that you've been doing most work. And now it's time for I think this is the most crazy slide of the, at least text-wise, of the day, but the way I put this up is just to sort of make a sort of a range from more focus on research to more focus on visual design. And then I tried just to plop in some of the most used titles in the UX design. And also it's yeah, great, thanks. and that just to highlight like what the titles might focus more on than the other. And that's not really that important because no one is. I mean, some people are like really like, I'm a graphic designer, I only do graphics, and I'm a UI designer, I only do design systems, all that. I never talk to any customers, and some people are like that, but most of us are sort of in a range in this. So you will sort of have to draw a line in that range and say, I'm properly working in this space. And depending on where you're working, you need to put an emphasis on the stuff I put in the bottom of the slide. So if you are a UX researcher, it's really important that you in your case descriptions show how you got the insights, the personas, maybe also the service blueprints. That's maybe more in the service design kind of area, but not to exclude the rest, but just you can't show everything, or at least you can, but then it'll be a 200-page book that you are handing in to these people, and you don't want it to be like too much information. So focus on whatever is the area that you do identify as the most, or you think your specialty is in, and just skip the rest, or mention it a little bit, or explain how you cooperated with the stakeholders that did the other parts. So that's a important thing as well when you create a portfolio. As a bonus tip, as I mentioned, if you want to include everything you ever done on any project, it might be manageable in the beginning, but after 5 years, 6, 7, 8, 10 years, it's just, I mean, it would be a 500-page book that you would have to sit down and create, but also you will never get someone to read through everything. So get inspired by some of these really great, cool portfolios you find online with just like 20 pages of case descriptions and all this cool stuff. But I would probably not recommend you to try to copy it unless you are unemployed and have all the time in the world, and just that's the direction you're going in. You want to create a nice portfolio and get noticed online, all these kind of things. But if you look at the extra time spent on creating this huge portfolio compared to just creating a okay portfolio with just enough information, it's not really worth it. You could spend the time creating your own UX project somewhere, getting better at some of your skills, etc. And I bring you this case also because I spoke to this junior designer who got hired at Google, who really did like one of these portfolios, and I think he spent 2 months doing it, and that was really cool, and he got noticed, and he's on a lot of web pages out there, and that's also very valuable. But it was not really part of what got him hired at Google. No one really sat down and read through that entire huge book of a portfolio. All right, moving on. Tip number 3: only showcase your best projects. It might be a thing that some of you is like, yeah, well, duh, of course you should only showcase your best projects and not the stuff you didn't like. But I also mean, don't show everything. So a lot of portfolios I'm receiving has everything sort of in a timeline way. So you have 10 to 15 projects, and the really interesting project that is, very like the company I'm hiring for, or very similar to the area I'm working in. It might be project number 7, so I never see it. I just go through the top 3 projects that is create animations for this website, and I'm like, okay, that's not really what I'm looking for, and I just move on. So curate. I mean, it's okay to create a portfolio with all these projects, but then when you send it into someone, curate it a bit and choose the best ones. And quality over quantity. I always recommend to choose just 2 or 3 projects and then list the rest as really short case descriptions. Maybe put a note in saying, contact me for the full story or for more information. Maybe just as a list if it's really old stuff. I've been doing UX design for almost 10 years. So I think some of the older stuff I did, I probably don't want to, brag too much about it, because it was different. It was a early smartphone era, and it was just not good, super good stuff. Looking at it today compared to back then, but still mention it so they can see like a resume that what you did in the past, and also, as I mentioned, make it relevant for the reader. If my current startup is creating a digital way to save up for a pension in Denmark, which is different in each country, but it's very complicated in Denmark. And if you have done anything and you're applying for a job at my company, if you have done anything in finance or something with data visualization, whatever, pick that project and put it up front, and then never mind that it was 3 years ago. Just make it relevant for whoever is reading your portfolio. If you have a portfolio online, that could be a bit tricky, because if you just have all your projects, everyone will just they'll have to search for it themselves. But then I think it's okay if you're applying for this one job, just to edit your portfolio online and then put the rest up there after you're done, just to simply increase your chances of displaying your best work. Cool. Bonus tip: what if you are totally new into UX? And I imagine some of you listening in tonight is very new, or maybe looking to transition into UX, or maybe you did a UX course, or you're a student and you don't have any project. So really, you need a portfolio to get a job, but you can't really create a portfolio because you don't have any cases you can display. And I always recommend to just, do your own projects. It's okay. If you are applying for junior positions, no one is really expecting you to be an expert in everything. Maybe you also need to try out different stuff just to figure out if you are more into the testing or the UI design, just to specialize yourself a little bit. But go out, find a local community or a business. Maybe in your country you have an app from this big company that just really doesn't work. At least I know in Denmark, half the public apps are really horrible. So a lot of people are just using that as a portfolio product and saying, yep, we will just redo this health app for this hospital, and then post it somewhere, maybe to get some traction, but also just to display that you can handle a design process, you can handle how to create a UI, you can do interviews, whatever is relevant to your specialization. All right. I think maybe I'm speaking a little bit too fast, but we're moving on nicely. Tip number 4. focus on the process, not just the outcome. And it's also a thing that all the design method books tell you, right? So you don't really, if you read a book like Lean UX, they're like, okay, don't focus on you creating an app, and then when you created an app, you're done. No, focus on creating the right app and how to maintain this app and think in the whole experience. And it's the same thing when you describe your project for other people to see. So always show your processes and your methods and the whole story of how did you actually go from nothing or a brief or very little, and that complicated path into this app, website, experience, service, analysis, whatever you created, and that's really what tells everyone that you are a real UX designer, or that you are someone who's actually knows what they're talking about. So if I sometimes get these portfolio where everything is just super perfect. It just looks like a textbook case where it was just like, so I did the analysis, and then I defined everything, and then I ideated, and everything just worked, and in the end I got this really nice product, and I tested that, and that was great. And then end of story, everything is great, 5 stars, and all that. And it's never like that. I mean, I've never been part of creating something new, not even the award-winning stuff you create, or something, the stuff that people remember. That's always a complicated and messy journey. And if there's not any messiness in your work, I don't really believe you, to be honest. And I think most people are like that. If you try to build a few products, sometimes everything is just great, but don't try to make it look more perfect than it was in retrospective, or like to justify the choices you made. Sometimes you just make a choice and it's the right one, and sometimes you need to figure out a different way to go there, and make display these learnings and explain what you learned, what was how would you do it differently in the future. All these reflections things are really important. It's the same if you do an academic paper. It's the reflections and the approach to how would you do it differently next time. That's the important thing, not just how you did it. You need to go to a deeper layer to really get to the interesting part. Also, show don't tell. I mean, of course, not just include, if you create an app, just show 20 images of the final app. show instead the processes and methods. Include some diagrams telling, then we started out and we did this maybe Lean UX method where we had these hypotheses and we tested it, and it didn't get us anywhere. So we changed our approach, and then we did a huge research analysis, and that, highlight this, put it down on some models, and display that as maybe just as boxes with arrows, just to explain your process, and to show that you have an adaptability, but also that you know your design methods, and that you know how to use them in practice. Also show all the early sketches, show the canceled ideas, show the prototypes that tested really badly, show that thing as well. I think that's the interesting part of a portfolio, and not the final UI that is also really nice to look at and also really interesting. But as a UX designer, yeah, it's not really the most important thing. Also, a thing that I'm missing from a lot of portfolio is that what was actually your role in the project. So you might hand in a portfolio and that just says, hey, yeah, I did this Airbnb thing. You might have heard of it, right? And it just said, Airbnb, 4 months. Here's Airbnb. It looks really cool. But like, okay, so but you probably did not single-handedly created Airbnb in this 4-month period. You probably did something on the project. You probably did it in a team. So what was your role, and for how long were you on the project? and what were your responsibilities. So that's a lot more important than the outcome as well. So always remember to put that in the portfolio, especially maybe not in the beginning. I think it's always nice to put your sort of like a role tag and then what your role was and just the basic information, but also in the case description, explain how you work together with other stakeholders, just to highlight if you are closer to development or you were part of the business discussions, and all that stuff is important as well. So always focus on your role when describing a project. The bonus tip for this one is to I've been in this business for I thought when I was writing these slides, I was like, oh yeah, I've probably been doing this for like 5 years, and then it was like, okay, it's 10 years. Wow, that time went by fast, and I can't really remember what we did on some of the cool projects I worked on like 8 years ago. So keep a diary and remember to save the sketches, save the images, the process images, all the small notes, just so you have this diary to remember what did you actually do back then, and why was it great, and what can I still learn from this, even though it was many years ago. Of course, after a while, your projects always get a bit obsolete, so it's not that important to explain in detail what you did 10 years ago, but you never know. So it's and when I write a diary, I do a folder in a Dropbox or your Drive or somewhere where it can't be deleted, and just put in all the stuff from the projects that you're allowed to. Of course, there's also copyright and stuff that you can share and not share, but just keep it there for later. So when you are updating your portfolio, this is where you can find it. Great. The final tip: tell your story. I was actually a little bit unsure what to call this tip. It could also be to add your personality to your portfolio, but in general, just like remember that you are not just selling your past work, you're also selling yourself. So spend at least as much time as you spend on a case on yourself. On what is your design philosophy, how do you like to work, where are you on that spectrum of all these different UX roles. I wrote down these sort of interview questions you can ask yourself. Do a small sort of reflection self solo interview, and just like reflect on what is actually, if you look at your past projects, what is something you really liked about them. What is your favorite part, and are there one process that you use more than others? Are there sort of, are you specializing in an area, or you're more like a generalist? And if you are generalist, has it changed throughout the years? All these things, just try to write all this down, and then if it's possible, try to summarize it into a small section or a sentence, and just place it up front on your webpage. So it says, hi, I'm Bjarke, I'm a UX designer, service designer, whatever you identify with. And then something I work with this many years, and then a bit more, but then also have an about me page where you write a bit more about your approach. And at least on mine, I put in a lot of on sort of my favorite design process. I'm very I've been teaching at a university level for a few years, so I'm a bit damaged in all the theory parts, but I'm really into the whole hypothesis approach versus the analysis approach, and how do those things go together, and also the management approach. So that's what I'm putting on my portfolio now, but earlier it was more like why I thought design was a great area. So just explain, add some flavor, some personality, so when the recruiters or the future employers or the potential customers look through your portfolio, they also see not just what you have done, but also what your philosophy is, if you can say that. A bonus tips on this one is that, and this is a personal thing, but if you see some of these portfolios online, not so much these days as you did 5 years ago, but where people put like a percentage graph just showing what the skills they have, or they are like, look how many stars I'm proficient in all these programs, and you know, no one has ever really gained anything valuable for that. If you say you are 60%, 67% skilled in Photoshop, yeah, it's not really telling me anything. Maybe the relativeness, just to say that you're better at Photoshop than you are at Figma, hopefully not, but you know, yeah, it's good to have that as well. Yeah, so please don't do that. Just a tip from here. That was it. Here just a short overview of the tips as well. I hope you got something. I think I speed talked a little bit, but I hope you managed to get the most important points. And if not, you will also have the slides, so you can you know, look through them. Or if you later on, we'll do some questions now. But if you later on just something pops up, you feel free to write me on LinkedIn, which is my tag down in the right corner there. Cool.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Bjarke. We have already some questions in the comment section. You can add more. Is Natalie here though?
Yes, I'm here.
Natalie again, she's the learning manager for our UX design courses, specifically UX Design Bootcamp in Vienna and UX Design Fundamentals, a part-time online format that is for a more larger and international audience. So Natalie, if you don't mind telling us a little bit about these two courses, then Bjarke, we will proceed with the Q&A.
Yes, sure. Thank you very much. So let me briefly tell you a little bit about the two courses that Olta just mentioned. So on the one hand, we have the UX Design Fundamentals online program. This is a part-time format, so it takes place on the evenings and you can do it in parallel to working. And the target for this group is people that want to either upskill, so you want to add UX skills to your existing skills because you might need them in your job that you have at the moment. But you can also do it as a first step into the world of UX design. And we already had a lot of students that actually moved totally into UX design after doing the course. So it could be a very good first step. Also, you get a very good overview of all the different topics of UX design, and you also work on a project. So you actually have something to already show at the end. And then on the other hand, the course I was talking about, again, it's online, so you can participate from wherever you live. Then on the other hand, we have a course that takes place in Vienna. This is the Ux Full-Time Bootcamp, and this is a much more intensive course. As the name says, it's full-time, so it really takes place every day, the whole day, and it's 12 weeks long. So the target group of this course is really people that really want to go into UX design and they want to switch their career. So if you are, let's say, already sure that you would like to be a UX designer, we highly recommend the full-time course. So you get much more input and you also work, for example, already on 2 projects, which you can then add to your portfolio to apply for a job. So yeah, this is basically the 2 options that we offer in spring. Both courses are starting at the end of March. And yeah, I think this was a quite brief overview, but if you have more questions, if you are more interested in specific parts of the course, just leave a question in the comments and I'm happy to come back to the question.
Yes, and also if you have questions, this is my email address. I am the one taking care of these 2 courses. So whatever questions you have, just let me know. Also, a shout out to the Danish team. They are starting the UX and graphic design course now in February. The UX design course in Italy, held in Italian, will start in March as well. And our courses in Vienna and the international part-time, as Natalie already mentioned, will start in March. So we can go actually to the questions now that we have here for Bjarke. We start with the first one. Let me check. Okay, here we go.
Yeah. All right. So where do portfolios on Behance? I think I always called it Behance, but some might say Behance or something else. But the Adobe portfolio site, at least for showcasing your work, I think it's a great place for visual design stuff and just to put up the outcome and really like get some feedback on it. And I think it's because the format is a bit limiting, and also you are competing with a lot of other visual design final product stuff. So, but it's not really a portfolio. It can be a portfolio place if you can just set it up as a long PDF. But I think most of the other stuff there is focused on the outcome and the visual part. So it might drown a little bit in all that stuff, but it's totally fine to share your work there. I would prefer a bit more text heavy format for some portfolios, just because I'm not, as I said, that interested in the outcome. I'm interested in your process and how you would work at my company.
Thank you. And we'll go with the next one.
Yeah, how to present confidential projects. Is it okay to share them with Recruiter in PDF? And yeah, that's a tricky question. At least I can say in some of the places I worked with, especially in finance, it was a huge no-go to share anything, also with a Recruiter in a PDF. But on the other hand, what they don't know won't kill them. So I think what I did was that I spoke to whoever was in charge of the projects on confidentiality at the places I've worked in, and sort of got a green light for what can share and what can't I share. And most places are like, they're okay with you just sharing anything that's public, but also it might be like older test projects or something similar. So as long as you just ask an extra time, I think you'll be allowed most places to share your work.
Just want to share, Bjarke, that I had 3 questions for you, and I was very happy to have come up with these questions, but you answered during the presentation. So I'm now thinking of other questions. Meanwhile, my viewers have my back. They have their own here. So
great, but I'll keep them coming. I'll be here for a while, but all right, next one. All right, I'm interested in a career change into UX design. My studies lean more towards UX researcher, and I want to build new cases to display more disciplines. How do you suggest I go from here? And that's a good question. I think research is very much the most difficult area to do a mock-up case or a test case in, because you need to speak to actual people and you need to have a real-world problem. Of course, you also need that for the rest, but more like you need to have something to test, or you need to have some people in an area to interview. So for this, it might be better to have like one of the courses in Talent Garden or something similar, where you can get access to a real life project where you can sort of showcase that you can do research, or like a class or something similar where you have access to this. What else? It's just like the other cases. It's just to say, okay, I want to research how I can improve this public healthcare. I'll just interview 5 people. I'll somehow manage to recruit them, and I know that can be a hassle, and it can be difficult to find the right ones. But that is also part of your skill set, and just go out and do it like you would do any other project. But it is tricky.
Thank you again, and we move to the next one.
Okay, I'm a digital designer. What do you advise me to go into, UI or UX? From Nigeria. Yeah, that's a tricky question. I think it's not like one area is better than the other. And if you ask some UX designers, they would might do more UI than they do UX. So it's it's like this range is fluid, and I don't think you can do any of them without dabbling a bit into both parts. So I think you should just go with the whatever you think is more interesting now. But if you change your mind, because you will do parts of both in any project, you can always just like switch over. I was only doing visual design for the first 2 years of my career, and then one day I just, UX design was not really a title used that much here, at least in Denmark back then, and I just heard about it and I was like, wait, that's also that's what I'm doing and that's what I want to do, and I just started calling myself UX designer from one day to the other, and that's sort of how I transitioned into those areas. So I don't think you can avoid one of the areas, but it's easy to transition. So just go with what your gut feeling is now.
Okay, and the next one, I believe Nicole is actually one of our half scholarship holders, I think. Maybe I'm wrong, but she has a question for you.
Great. And if I find my own projects, like you proposed, public sector apps, and improve it, how actually, if I can't code or realize the technical side of the project? And that's that's a good question. Of course, if you can always come up with the best experience for an app, and then it's not possible to bring to life due to technical limitations and all that. But I think you can still showcase that you know your UX work by doing that part, and then just hoping that it would be possible, because technically everything is possible if you just spend enough resources on it, but often you have limitations there as well. So I think if you are starting out and doing your own project, it's okay just to do that part up to where you just hope someone will be able to create it. If you're of course doing something on with huge robots and VR sets and everyone can see that will never be a possibility without you throwing in a billion euro, then that could be a tricky part. But for most, if it's not something you are really into the technical side, just leave it out, and that will just come when you do real life projects.
Thank you, Bjarke. And then we have Violeta asking, any free sites for creating portfolio?
Yes, I think some of them, the ones I mentioned, are free, at least on a basic plan where you have one site. Webflow has a free plan, and you might need to pay something. You need your own domain, but that's just how it is on websites. But also Squarespace, and there's also a site called Wix, WIX, very similar, but it's sort of a basic Squarespace. All these have free plans that you can use for creating an all right portfolio. So yeah, most of them have free plans. I think of the ones I mentioned, 1 or 2 might be only paid, but for the rest, it should be able just to at least create a basic portfolio.
Thank you. And we move to the next one. It should be Elena. I'm looking for a master in UI and UX abroad. I'm in Italy. What do you suggest? Now, this is tricky because this is for me. I suggest UX Design Bootcamp in Vienna, unless you're looking for something at the university level. But we have very often, actually, side jokes, people coming from Italy for the UX Design Bootcamp and to enjoy Vienna and the city in general. So I don't know if you, Bjarke, have other suggestions. You can go with it.
Actually, when it comes to if it's a real university master, I don't know any online one, but I mean we have one at the IT University in Copenhagen, but that's a 2-year program, and it's and it's only one out of four that applies who gets in, so it's quite tricky. So I think I personally I started that, and I was really glad I did, and I learned a lot of stuff. But in the last project I was in, I was the only sort of designer with a master. The rest was self-taught or came from a lot of different backgrounds. So it's not that necessary for at least for creating great UX work. But yeah, I don't know anywhere else, I'm afraid.
Thank you for the information. And the next one is, I tend to write a lot of text in my portfolio to explain the learnings, etc. How much text do you as a hiring manager usually actually read? What would you advise?
The first 5 sentences. So I mean, okay, that's not true, but you just skim through it. So you skim through the headlines first, and then you look for something that's really relevant to whatever you are looking for. And then you open that project, and then you skim the first 5 lines. And then if that's not really like something for you, you just move on. But if it's really interesting, then you read through the whole case, of course. But I think it's important to always focus on what is the first thing you see, and then make that interesting. And then the text is sort of, it's good when someone is reading through everything, but I would much rather prefer just a brief to the point description than a lot of details, because the details I will ask for in the interview, and reading through it in 100 portfolios for a job, that's not something I have the time for.
All right, so Nikolai is here. Nikolai is one of our students that just finished the UX Design Bootcamp. He says, "Dear Bjarke, thank you very much for your insights. I am at the very beginning, but wondering how to become a well-rounded generalist. Is that possible in your experience? Do you have any tips for me?"
I think it's very, very possible, but it's also, you will always get a bit specialized in an area, even though you don't want to. You will just be on this project that requires you to be doing a little bit more than in other areas in one area, and then that's just how it goes. So I think the best place for me, at least, I would consider myself a generalist, but sort of the spectrum has narrowed a bit. So I'm more in the middle of the two things. I do more research than I do brand and graphic design, but I'm also very much in the service design, UX design area. But because I work in a startup now, I do everything. So if you are starting out and you would like just to try everything and be good at everything, at least you can't be a superhero in everything unless you start focusing on one of the areas a bit more. But at least to learn all the areas, then maybe look for a job in a startup or a smaller company where you are responsible for everything, and that is super tough. I mean, I've been editing learning videos today, and that I've never done something like that before. But that's something we needed for our website. So we quickly shot that with a phone. Never tried that before, and now I'm learning everything about how to edit out reverb and cutting a video. And that's the 2 days of work, and then the next 2 days might be testing. So I think startups are a good place to look for jobs if you are trying to become a generalist.
All right, so the next question, I assume, is more for Natalie. It's about the bootcamp course later this year.
Yes, so usually we start in spring and in fall. So in fall, it will approximately start in October or November. So usually at the end of October or beginning of November, we start the second round. And yes, both of them, so the full-time bootcamp and the part-time online program.
Right, sorry, so you can say, no, it's fine. It happens. You can stay updated through our website. Of course, you can also email me personally if you have questions about the new dates.
Exactly. Now, at the moment on the website, you can, of course, find information about the courses that are going to start at the end of March. But as soon as they are started, we are also updating the website, and then you will probably already find the new dates as well. Or you ask Goita.
Yes, exactly. All right, then we move to the next one again for Bjarke.
Yes, I'll just read out loud. I'm a systemic designer, and because of my profile, sometimes it's not easy to resume or traduce all the processes or data into attractive slides. Do you have any suggestions or examples? Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, sometimes it's just what you do that is not really looking that attractive on slides. I can say from my experience that service blueprints are looking really unattractive if you're just posting the posted version in your portfolio. But that's okay, because the people hiring you are looking for that. So it's okay just to include the data in whatever way is normal in your area. Hopefully the people hiring you are used to this. if not, maybe consider doing like a small data visualization, if it's possible for your project, something extra just to show that you know that part as well. But yeah, it needs to fit your role. If this is what you do, then that's also what the future employers are looking for.
Okay, I find the next question very interesting, actually, how to manage the fact that you have two projects created in two languages, your native and English, for example. Does it make sense to show to recruiter portfolio with project in native language?
Oh yeah, it's if the final product is in a different language than let's say English, and you're applying for a job in English, I think it's okay. I mean, maybe if you need to explain a point, you need to put in a few translations. But as long as the description of your casework is in the language you are sort of applying in, then that should be fine. And it can be tricky in some countries where you are expected to apply in your native language and not just have everything in, let's say, English. And then you have to have two portfolios in each language, and that can be a real hassle. And there's no easy way to do that. It's just, yeah, it takes time to set up. Or maybe if you can find a template with an easy language switcher, you can handle at least the technical part through this. But yeah, there's no easy way of doing it. Luckily, at least here in Denmark, everyone speaks English, so I just do everything in English. But I know in some countries it's unfortunately a bit more complicated.
All right, so we still have 3 minutes, so we will try to squeeze in as many questions as possible. Vanessa, nice to see you, Vanessa, here. Would you please share with us a concrete example of a good portfolio, maybe a Behance portfolio or a website that amazed you?
Oh yeah, I'll consider bringing some examples today, but that's just hundreds out there, and I actually would just suggest you to write, something like 10 best UX portfolios in Google, and then you will get the first list of 20 blogs that have compiled something. And I know, it's not everything is good, but if you look for a valid source, sort of like this Norman Group or some of the more like good UX design companies out there, the quality that they sort of been looking for is great as well. And always, as I wrote, get inspired by it, but it's not necessarily how you should present yourself. So just look through it as an inspiration, but you don't necessarily need to copy it, because it's a different person, different area, and a different job. So yeah, it's good for inspiration, but not
All right, then we move to the next one. As an expat working in Denmark, what are the ways to grow a network to seek work in addition to traditional job applications using portfolio and resume?
Yeah, well, I don't think it's specific to Denmark, at least, but I've been using LinkedIn a lot, or online communities on Slack, or on LinkedIn as well, Facebook, Reddit, wherever you can find groups that are discussing design in your area. And the more you are sort of noticed there at conferences, at meetups, the better you will grow your network. I think I got my first 2 design jobs through being a volunteer at a cafe at my university when I was studying, because I got a huge network there, and everyone was working IT afterwards. And also by doing actually the morning boosters and doing attending meetups, just having a coffee with some of the people afterwards, it's a great way to get noticed or remembered, at least for jobs. So it's not like sometimes you won't get anything of value from attending, but sometimes you will. It's very random, but at least for me, it has worked quite well, just to get out there and attend as many events or discussions that you can.
Okay, so we made it to the end, I think. We managed
right on time.
Almost on time, yes. Why are jobs in research reduced to UX? I can barely find UI design research jobs.
Oh yeah, I think that's maybe also me that just the titles I chose for this, but if you look at companies and the titles, you will find the same job with 3 different titles if you just Google, and that's because it's just a messy area right now with UX and whatever the title should be. So if you look for any researcher jobs or even service design jobs, I think you will find something that's also related to, as you write, UI design research. So don't look too much into the title. Just look for something that's close to your title, and then have that discussion with the company when you hopefully get invited to an interview because of your great portfolio.
All right, so it's 7 o'clock, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you, Natalie, for being here. Thank you, Bjarke, of course, for the wonderful presentation and for answering all the questions. If you have questions, you can email me, as I mentioned before. Check our website. You will receive a follow-up email with the presentation that Bjarke did for you. And of course, you will also receive the recording of this event. So thank you very much, and everyone has a really nice evening. Bye.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening.